nice to have.
We're living in an exponential world.
That content creation is going to be IP protection.
I'm grateful.
This is the Pete Sacco Podcast, where technology meets consciousness. I'm Pete Sacco, entrepreneur, technologist, and modern-day mystic. Each week, we explore insights that expand our minds, challenge norms, and move us towards a more intelligent, intentional future. Each episode, we explore the edge of what's possible in business, in tech, and in human potential. Let's dive in. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Pete Sacco Podcast. I'm Pete Sacco. And so what I hope to bring you today is I want to talk about what to expect from this podcast. See, I've been deep in the data center industry. And so what I want to go is from where the data center meets deep thinking, where AI meets soul, and where my life as an entrepreneur meets inner alignment. And so if you've ever wondered, how do you build something really powerful, really meaningful to yourself without losing yourself in the process and staying connected? Well, then I hope this podcast is going to be for you. And so here's what I want to do in this first episode. I want to kind of explain why this podcast exists. I want to talk about what hopefully you're going to get as a listener. I want to talk about who this is for, who should be listening in the first place. I want to talk about my background and how I came to be the person that I am today, this technologist slash entrepreneur slash modern day mystic. I want to know, or I want to talk about what to expect from the different episodes and the different series that we're going to bring to this. And then also I want to talk about what's the next steps. Where do I hope to take this? Then I'll close with some thoughts. And we'll call it a wrap. And so first, why does this podcast exist? And so it was really born out of my years of building, my primary company, PTS Data Center Solutions, which, you get it. It's a play on my name, PTS, Peter Thomas Sacco Data Center Solutions. But, as I became an entrepreneur almost 30 years ago now, right? I've been coached and I've learned so much. I mean, I'm a member of Vistage and Strategic Coach and Abundance 360. And so much has evolved in my learning. I've learned so much about me, and ultimately it culminated in me writing the book, right? Right? Living in Bliss, right? And it really is a cathartic tale of really the most last 20 to 30 years of my life, when I really felt that my life has really begun to flourish to where I am today. And so, but in that time, there was success, but it was really sometimes without soul, and it was just burnout in disguise. And so I've had to make changes in my life, which culminated in that book and the life that I live today. I want to bring a massive gap that's in conversations where deep technology means deeply connected to your life. I want to bridge that gap. So here's what I hope I'm going to bring to you, as a listener. One, I hope to bring bold conversations that are at the intersection of technology, of leadership and entrepreneurism, and still personal growth. In living in bliss, I say that to live in bliss has three components. The first component is body vitality. Anybody who knows me knows that I've transformed from a 360 pound person to what you're looking at today, 190-ish pounds, right? But completely changed my physicality. So the first one, body vitality. The second part of bliss is mind clarity, right? I learned what it means to be happy. And I hope to be able to bring that to all of you. But then the third part of that is spiritual purpose. And my definition of spirituality comes from Dan Buettner from the Blue Zones, who talked about, I grew up Catholic. And so I always equated spirituality with religion. And I've learned it has nothing to do with it. So I love his definition. And his definition is spirituality is a belief in something greater than ourselves. And that's what I discovered along the way here. that the third part of being in bliss isn't just body and mind, but there's the spirituality and understanding that there's something far greater than ourselves. So, another thing I hope to bring to the listeners is real world stories from myself, from other entrepreneurs, from engineers and leaders in the data center and AI movement, the visionaries, if you will, in that framework. And what were the frameworks behind their decisions? And look, it's no mystery of what I'm trying to build in my personal and professional and spiritual life, right? In the professional world, I'm trying to build a world of what Andrew Carnegie built at the turn of the century, right? He came up with the idea of vertical integration. So in the professional world, I'm tying together what is going to be the future of AI, and I'm building a world around it, from data centers, from technology, from the chips that are going to be the next chip to GPUs, the software that will run it all, and what kind of framework of data center will that look like? But I want to combine that with where AI is going to lead us. And I want to have that deep conversation of what does man do when we're no longer identifying ourselves by what our skills are and what our talents are and what we bring to the world. And so I hope to be able to bring people who can have that level of conversation. So I want to talk about things like how to scale your company and consciousness at the same time. There's an outward part of your life and an inward remembering. And so I want to give equal time for doing all of that. So we're going to break this Pete Sacco podcast up really into three pieces. There's going to be one, the data center edge, that area where we can talk to the data center leaders, the AI leaders, the visionaries in this space to understand where AI in this data center movement is going. And then there's going to be Bliss Mode. The series Bliss Mode will focus predominantly on the spirituality. Mankind is filled with, with ancient mystics and wisdom that have existed as long as man has been writing things down, and they've understood man's connection to the universe, but they never had the science to back it up. We are at the crux of time where we will understand the science of the universe and what consciousness actually is. Now, remember, there's going to be the data center edge, there's going to be bliss mode, and then there's the future table. And the future table is everything that doesn't quite fit in between anything of AI and technology and data center related, but not quite spirituality, right? What I hope to bring are guests, interesting people, and have deep conversations of that intersection of where we are, that point between what technology will deliver to the world and how man will respond when he's no longer needed for his intellect or his skills. So let's go. I'm going to reach out and find all of the people that have interesting stories to tell and see what their reflections are on this transitional time in mankind's development. So, who is this podcast intended for? And so, I think if you're a founder like me, if you're a leader of an organization or a group, not just professional, but a leader in life, if you're a technologist, if you are deeply imbued in the technologies that are shaping the world today, right? And look, everybody who knows me knows my opinion on AI. If AI was a clock, a 24-hour clock, we're only at 2 a.m., right? There's 22 hours left to go, right? And by noon, halfway through, we're not going to recognize the world. So also, it's going to be for creatives, right? The people who are the innovators, the content creators. I've talked about, right? The old way, the old paradigm as to how you excel, at least financially in the world, used to be how much do you know, your intellect, and what skills do you have? What labor could you bring to the world? That's changing. It's coming down to innovation and content creation today, and then intellectually property protecting that innovation and content. And so I'm at the forefront of that as well, right? There's going to be copyright law pre-AI and copyright law post-AI. Who else? How about people in the data center industry, building data centers, the AI tools, the communities, um, and not just the buildings themselves, but the framework of the chips and the software that go into what the future of AI is going to look like, and the framework, what is the data center industry is going to look like? So data center leaders. And finally, anyone curious about how to align business, mind, and mission, right? All those people who understand. Look, when I first wrote the book and I was thinking about who I was writing the book for other than me, it was where I was. How could I have this much success? How could people be looking at me and say, look, that guy's got businesses and he's got homes and he's doing all of those trappings. But how could I have been so miserable at the same time? Why was I not happy? And what I realized when I say that, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people in the world. And I got tired of being in pain and I did something. I created a little bit of change out of that. I created a new framework: commit, learn, and do. And so, okay, why me? And so, why can I talk about this subject? Well, 30 years ago, I formed PTS Data Center Solutions. And since that time, I've created lots of different, I'm a kind of a serial entrepreneur. I have lots of businesses across mostly the technology stack, um, but they are all deeply involved in what I talked about, that vertically integrated around AI and what AI, this time when it's going to be so shaping to the future of mankind. I mean, I talk about, you know, our time, man has constructed a timeline and we think it's linear, but we're experiencing it's actually exponential. And we're at that hockey stick moment in life when it's about to change faster than it ever has. And so I think it's time to have this conversation about how don't do as I did, but seek what I sought. We can have an outward journey, but we can find inner peace and our connectedness to all. And that's what living in bliss was really about. It was about building an outward world that's meaningful, that's purpose driven, that gives me joy and happiness, but align that with an inner remembering that we've all come from the same source. And for whatever reason, we're living out like a blip of water when a stone drops in the water and rises up. That's our life. And it rises and then it returns back to the source from whence we came, from whence we came. I believe we are all pure energy. We are all pure consciousness. We are all derived from the same source. We live in this moment as healthfully and as vivaciously as we can so that we can be the quantum observers of an infinite level of quantum probabilities and we get to live out an objective reality. And when we're done with this earthly form, we return right back to the source. It's been meaningful in my life, this realization that I could have outward success and inner peace. So my 25, 30 years in tech, leadership of people, coaching, inner soul searching, both as a technologist and a seeker, I think is something that I would love to share with the world. And so what I hope what I expect from future episodes are weekly releases across the three different series types: the Data Center Edge, Bliss Mode, and the Future Table. A mix of my personal reflections, guest interviews. We'll probably do some themed series, across them, across different topics. I want to bring in friends, family, CIOs, AI experts, spiritual leaders, startup founders, and more. Anybody that has something to share into this new world, this new paradigm. I would love it to be raw and real. So look, if this resonates, if then hit subscribe and join me on this journey. Join me on the journey that I'm living out right in front of you. Share it with a friend, bring it to a family member. help me build something meaningful that we can all be a part of together. So do me a favor, follow me on social media. It's at Pete Sacco, right? There's a website, petesacco.com. I have all the usual social media stuff out there that we're building this community around. I would love for you all to be a part of it with me. And so look for the updates and all the behind scenes content that you'll need. And just know this, success isn't just about building things that scale. It's about building a self that can carry it all with peace. So let's build boldly. Let's build blissfully. Thank you for being a part of it. I can't wait to see what all comes of this. Who connects, who doesn't, who appears. And so thank you so much for being a part of the Pete Sacco podcast. Thank you. Thank you for joining me on the Pete Sacco podcast. If today's conversation sparked insight or inspiration, don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a review. You can find more on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and LinkedIn. Until next time, keep evolving, keep leading, and find your bliss.